Hey guys, Christina here, and it has been a while. We had quite a bit of sickness going through our home. My two younger were sick, and then I caught it, and I actually got it really bad. So I'm actually sucking on a cough drop right now. Trying not to cough. Hopefully I can make it through here. And yes, if you see bruises on me, those are from IVs and blood draws and stuff. So it's okay. I knew someone's gonna mention that, so I thought I should mention it first. But today I wanted to talk a bit about books and how you can use them to help with language development, as well as with a few other things, like really simple, basic books and simple tips. So first I want to talk a little bit about speech and encouraging children who are maybe a little delayed in speech or to encourage speech, some really simple tips. So this is one of the books that my son really likes right now, my 2-year-old. It's Go Train Go, Thomas the Tank Engine. And the very first tip is simply that when you're reading a book to your child, turn the book around. Because usually you have your children sitting on your lap or beside you and you're reading like this, right? But what happens when you turn the book around and the child is facing you, they're actually seeing your mouth when you're talking. They're seeing the shapes that the sounds are making, and they connect those two together. And so it's a really simple tip just to turn the book around and have them sit in front of you and read to them that way. And that way they're getting the benefit of the book and the picture and hearing the words, but they're seeing what your mouth looks like when it's making those particular sounds. So that's one tip right there. Another one is to choose books that have repetition or that have rhyming or kind of a sing-song in them. So for this book, every time in the book it says go train go, I'll say go train, and my 2-year-old will say go, and he's a little delayed in speech, so it comes out more like oh, but he knows that, and that's the pattern, and kids are able to fill in patterns very easily. Also filling in other words, like in here, she loses her hat. He can say the word hat, and so I always pause, and he'll say the word hat, and he'll fill that word in. So any kind of book that has a rhyme or like a sing-song pattern, that's going to encourage the speech and that's going to help them to fill those words in, sometimes without them even realizing it. Another option is books that make sounds. So this is another book that my son really likes. It's just a board book. But on the end of every page has 3 sounds. So bump, womp, wop. And he'll repeat the third sound. He'll say wop. Or another one here, he'll say crack. So anything that has like a sound, or you can do animal sounds as well, where kids, sometimes it takes the pressure off when you're always trying to get them to say words. If they say a sound instead, it's fun, right? It's more like a game. And so finding books that have the sounds in them, it's just a fun way to get them to try and say more words in that respect. So the other one I wanted to show you is this little book. This is just from the dollar store. Oh, it was $1.47 at the dollar store. But it's just a little alphabet book. And so these are really great for naming things. So my son will point and I'll say what it is and he'll repeat it back to me. Sometimes he can say it, sometimes he can't. But this is just another really good option for drawing that language out, for labeling, for naming, and just practicing language skills. So that's another option there. And those are just some really simple, just board books, really easy board books. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is comprehension. So we often ask older children about comprehension. What happened in this story? You know, tell me what's going on. But you can do the same for younger children too. Like in this book here, I can show this picture and I can say to my 2-year-old, what happened? What has she lost? And he can say hat. And you can ask other questions. In this book, Thomas goes through some mud. What's that by his wheels? What's going on? And he can repeat back. Same with the other books. And these are also options that make reading the same book over and over and over and over again a little more interesting and a little more fun for your adult self as well. But you can ask a lot of great comprehension questions in that manner as well. And then as you get older, you can always ask children to reread books and to draw certain things out. So maybe you want them to keep a timeline. And so as they're reading a book, they're keeping a timeline as you go along. Maybe you want them to keep every description of a specific character. And so every time there's something that describes the character, they're going to write that down. And that's creating really good comprehension skills and just kind of filling in what's going on and what they can use their critical thinking skills for. So kind of going along with that is emotional intelligence. And I never really thought a whole lot about teaching my little ones emotional intelligence, but you can start right from the time they're using books like this. I'll show you. You can say, again, this page, look at Thomas's face. How do you think he's feeling? Can you make that face? Or here, what's Thomas's face saying here? Can you make a surprise face? What does that look like? Really, again, simple emotional intelligence. You can pick it out from here, at their faces, at kind of what's going on around them. And it's kind of connected to comprehension. You know, in this book here, another thing you can ask is, like on the lunch page, you can say, what are they eating for lunch? And my son's able to say apple and banana. And do they look happy to be eating lunch? Do they look sad? And emotional intelligence can be filled in that way. So you can start with emotional intelligence very, very young with simple books. And then again, you can add on to it. So if you wanted your child to work on emotional intelligence, you could ask them to reread a book and say that two characters have a fight. Okay, I want you to keep track of everything that happened, those precursors to that fight. What are the clues that are given? What are the statements? Or keep track of any time they say, I feel, or I'm emotion, frustrated, angry. Kind of those clues leading up to the event, and just gaining that emotional intelligence and learning to be aware of what's around. So many ideas with books. I mean, as adults, we can reread books and pick up so much more, right? The one I always think of is scripture. You can read the same scripture 5 different times in your life and get 5 very different depths to it and what it's saying. And it's the same with books. There's so many different layers and there's so many different things you can do. But starting with the very, very simple little board books, you can do a lot to help your child with speech, comprehension, emotional intelligence, and stop yourself from going crazy reading the same book over and over and over again in the same way. So I hope that helps and that gives you a few tips. If you have any tips, go ahead and leave them in the comment section down below so that others can benefit from that as well. Or if you have any questions for me, leave them there as well. Otherwise though, I hope that you're having a great day and take care.